Welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this transformative journey. You see, every day we dive into a powerful conversation about self-discovery, healing, and empowerment. This podcast is brought to you by Ask Nyomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery, where we believe that loving yourself is the first step to living a fulfilling life. You can expect insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories. Plus, we'll occasionally welcome special guests who will share their unique perspectives on self-love and personal growth. So get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's embark on this journey together. Because it's time to embrace the beautiful person that you are. So let's elevate our lives one episode at a time. Now let's get started. All right, my beautiful people. Well, welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am so excited to have you here for another powerful episode as we dive into February theme, Cultivating Self-Compassion, the Art of Loving Yourself. You know, self-compassion is the foundation of growth, healing, in everything we do here on this podcast. And this month, we have been exploring on how to nurture kindness toward ourselves while fostering deeper connections with others. Well, today, I am thrilled to welcome a very inspiring guest, Ken, the founder of Karuna Kava. Ben's journey from addiction and loss to building a thriving community is a testament to the power of transformation and connection, and of course, self-compassion. But before we jump into Ben's incredible story, I want to take a quick break, but also want to remind you of our free download, the Year of the Rebirth Workbook. This resource is packed with exercises to help you to reflect growth and practice self-compassion daily. You can find that link in our show notes or on our website. So now let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to hear Ben's story. All right, it's your girl, the Goddess Nyomi Banks, here on the Season of Self-Love podcast, and we'll be right back.
Washington Wellness Institute focuses on healing always. For me, if I look good, then I feel good. If I feel good, then I share the good. If I share the good, then I celebrate the good. If I celebrate the good, then I live the good. So I can be paid to be my greatest. But I have to learn the good to be the good.
So, what does it take to be the greatest? It's as simple as a free 15-minute consultation. Be kind to yourself and heal always.
Hey, it's your girl, the Goddess Nyomi Banks, and make sure you tune in every Thursday night to Ask Nyomi Bridging the Gap podcast, where we talk about everything from love, sex, relationship, cultural differences, and so much more. We're bridging the gap between them all, and we even talk about spiritual uplifting. You need to stop by. Me and Dr. Mike, as well as the BTG crew. We have some amazing guests that come through. You never know. Just make sure you tune in Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Go to axnyomi.com and tell them Nyomi sent you. All right, my beautiful people. Well, welcome back, and welcome Mr. Ben McQueen. How are you?
Doing very well. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. I am excited about this conversation. I truly am. Just reading your story and just seeing everything that you've been through, but the way that you came back and the work that you are doing is so amazing. It truly is. It is amazing. So what I want to do right now is I want to just take a moment for us to center ourselves, this guided meditation before we get into this topic. All right. So my beautiful people, if you would just a comfortable position and just to close your eyes for a moment. All right. Take a deep breath in and hold it for a moment. Now release slowly. Now let's do that again. Breathe in deeply, allowing the air to fill your lungs and nourish your body. Hold it gently. And now exhale, letting go of any tension or worry. As you breathe, I want you to picture a warm and golden light surrounding you. This light is your self-compassion, your permission to be kind to yourself. and it's wrapping you in a safety, acceptance, and love. Now take one final deep breath in, soaking up the golden light. And exhale, releasing anything that no longer serves you. I want you to know that you are enough. You are deserving of compassion, kindness, and love. And when you are ready, open your eyes and let's dive into today's conversation. All right, my beautiful people, if you are new here to the Season of Self-Love podcast, it's something that we do every day, Monday through Friday here on the Season of Self-Love. Again, Ben, welcome. I am truly grateful here to have you with us today. So you ready to dive in?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, so let's start from the beginning. Let's start from the beginning of your story. You've been so open about the challenges that you face: addiction, loss, hitting rock bottom. Can you share a bit about those moments and what led you to find your new path?
Absolutely. I mean, and thank you for the meditation to start off. That's a beautiful way to start this, because that's really, I think, what I lacked for so long in my earlier life was self-compassion, self-love, acceptance of myself. And from a pretty young age, I started using alcohol and other drugs as a way to change the way that I felt. My father died when I was 11, and I think I internalized a lot of that trauma. I also, witnessed some pretty horrific abuse in my household that I internalized. And I think when you're a kid and you see stuff like that happening, you want to do something, but you feel like you don't have any power. And so alcohol was something I turned to cope with the way that I felt. And I got in a lot of trouble growing up with the law, got arrested multiple times for alcohol related incidents. I was always kind of a good student, so I did make my way into college, but in college it just got so much worse.
Right.
Because I got into a fraternity and ended up getting kicked out of that fraternity for drinking, which is not usually something you hear of. Usually they just, vote you into the president position of the fraternity if you're the heaviest drinker. But so I needed help. I needed recovery. I needed to get sober, but I struggled for a long time. And so that was kind of how I got into Kava. It was a path towards self-healing, self-compassion in a sober lifestyle.
Nice. So your journey, you talk about Kava. That's something that became a cornerstone of your healing. How did you discover Kava, and what role do it play in your journey toward sobriety? Because a lot of people don't know what Kava is. So if you can explain it and how it applies to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Kava is a 3,000-year-old tradition from the South Pacific Islands. It's a plant medicine that grows in Papua New Guinea all the way out to Hawaii. So Vanuatu, Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, Micronesia. And the roots of the kava plant are rich in compounds known as kavalactones. Kavalactones like kavain, dihydrokavain, yangonin, desmethoxyangonin. These compounds act as anxiolytics. They relieve stress and anxiety. They're mood boosters. They make you feel kind of cheerful and happy, very socially comfortable. They're also muscle relaxants, so they relieve tension physically in the body. And something that I uniformly find with the thousands of people that I've introduced to kava is that if you struggle with addiction issues, it takes away that desire to use the drug of choice that's been causing you all that harm. It's a harm reduction technique for a lot of people like myself. Now, it's also just a fun, interesting, culturally intriguing thing to take part in. It's a really cool thing for people that aren't addicts and alcoholics too, but for people like myself, it has this amazing quality of making it so that you don't want to use or drink. And when I first was introduced to kava, I was homeless in Colorado. I had drank myself into a place where I was like on the street, and I luckily got into a halfway house because some fantastic people from 12-step recovery introduced me to a sober living community.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these guys in this halfway house were drinking kava, and I forget what happened. I think a girlfriend had broken up with me or something, and I was going to do that same thing I'd done a million times before, which completely lacked self-compassion, where I was going to go drink again and ruin this small little bit of my life that I'd built back up.
Mm-hmm.
But instead I ended up at this kava bar, and there was a speakeasy on one side and there was a kava bar on the other. And I just went into the kava bar instead. I didn't even really know too much about it. And in this kava bar, I found all these people that were not drinking alcohol, that were trying to make better decisions for themselves, that were having fun,
Mm-hmm.
and were joyous and full of love, and wanted to share their information and their new way of life with a newbie like myself. And that's really how I started to fall in love with kava.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that as you were talking. And I'm looking at you, and you still look kind of young. And I'm like, wow. But then just hearing your story and understanding that your father passed away at 11, died at 11. And then you witnessed so many different things in your life with abuse and other things. And I just want the listeners to understand, because I know they're like, well, why he started so young? Because a lot of times, people go to an outside source of healing themselves through, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, whatever it is, to null the pain, to release it, from you, to forget about it. We talking about last month, we talked about synchronicity and things and messages that comes to us. And as you said, you quite don't remember, but you said about you possibly lost a girlfriend or something like that. But in every moment of your life, all of it was a reason. You understand what I'm saying? Like everything that you've been in life brought you to where you are today. It is the part of your purpose. And so, and if you didn't know, you did, I just wanted to remind you that thank you for being courageous enough to go into that kava place and sitting there and witnessing everything around you and taking that drink, because that drink has not only saved your life, but saved others.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And I didn't, when I was drinking, I didn't really have a spiritual life.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a spiritual understanding. But once I got into the world of kava and I started doing more yoga and taking a lot more attention to my own physical and spiritual wellness, that's when I started to find recovery, truly. Because I'd been trying to get sober for probably 10 years at that point. And, because I was forced to as a kid. They made me go to therapy. I had to take classes. I was clearly a problem kid. And it was in the yogic practices that I learned about this idea of karuna. Karuna is it's very fitting. It's the Sanskrit word for compassion. And that's why I chose the word, Karuna Kava as the name of the company, because that's what I found in not just the practice of drinking kava, but in the spaces where kava is served. And it's the connection between people. It's that compassion that we kind of give to one another that I find to be really healing, but it has to start with some self-love.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Now, you just spoke about you creating Karuna Kava, of a space for connection and healing community. Can you just tell us a little bit more about the transition?
Absolutely. Yeah. So with what we did here at Karuna Kava, we started at farmers markets, just selling kava kind of to whoever we could get it to. You got to start where you are. And I didn't have any money. I was waiting tables and hustling and trying to make $1 wherever I could. And so I was sneaking kava into different into the kitchen at the restaurants that I worked at. I was sneaking kava to the managers of the folks that were working in those kitchens, and just really selling it on Facebook Marketplace. And it wasn't until we actually opened Karuna Kava Bar in 2022 that the actual community started to come together. And we started selling kava online. we started doing more events out in the community, more music events where you don't normally have non-alcoholic options. Usually a lot of music events are very alcohol forward. And so that was when we started to really grow into a space, was when we opened the bar. And our bar is a totally non-alcoholic social space. We don't serve alcohol here, and it's actually against the rules to bring alcohol into the space. It's very much a recovery focused community. And that's really when I started to internalize my own sobriety journey in a deeper way, and started to set aside other substances like marijuana, that like I kind of started smoking marijuana. And I found through this space that the friends that I've made here and the family that I've made here, that's what has really helped me stay sober. It's that connection.
Beautiful. You know, one thing is I love about your story, Ben, is how you built something that's not just about you. It's about the community. You know what I'm saying? What do you think spaces like Karuna Kava are so important, especially for people in recovery and seeking connection?
Yeah, I think it's important because when you struggle with addiction, you're in your own head a lot. And when you're a guy that I used to go to meetings with would say this all the time, which is, my mind is a place I don't want to walk alone at night. And it's because you've become addicted to a substance, and you've started to use that as the way that you answer all of life's problems. It doesn't actually answer the problems,
Right.
but it numbs them. It takes them away from your immediate sensation. And in reality, it's making them much worse the whole time. And so when you start to emerge from that space of pain and suffering, you need support, you need help, whether you want to admit it or not. And so whether it's in a 12-step recovery meeting, which I love 12-step recovery, it's a great place to get help. I would not be where I am today without the people in those rooms that have helped me kind of find my path. Or if it's in a kava bar, you're going to need a support system. And so when we see people come in and it's day one for them, and they come in and they get to put their name and their date in our sobriety book and kind of get celebrated for just being one day sober.
Yeah.
And they know that they've got a place they can come where not only do they not have to worry about alcohol being here, but they know that they're going to have a friend to talk to while they're here. That's a real beautiful thing. And I think it helps a lot.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. You know, I'm going to share a story with you. When you said about you at 11 losing your father, I grew up with both my parents, but my father had lost his father when he was 11. And my father was an alcoholic. And so growing up, a lot of times he had been in and out of places and stuff like that to get help. And I just remember those moments and times as, you know, a little girl, me and my sister, we sitting near at AA meetings and stuff like that, and just watching these things happen. But also now I understand he's no longer with us, but understanding just that little statement that you made about having an addiction and walking through your mind alone. You are afraid of that. And I think about that of my father, thinking of him as a little boy at 11 years old. His father, had passed away, and their whole life has changed. And so many things has happened to him and his sisters during that time. So just can you imagine that alcoholism and drugs was a part of his, like, okay, this is going to help me to stay sane through all of these things. So just you sharing that right there, I'm like, wow, like that hit home for me to make me have just even more compassion, for him in his journey. He was with us until he was like 50 something years old. But and even for our listeners, if you have anyone that's in your family that is going through, an addiction or something like that, step back for a moment and just have a little empathy and compassion on exactly what's going on. Because that one statement that Ben said about the one thing is the most scariest thing for is to walk in your mind by yourself. I'm a thinker. I think all the time. My mind runs all the time. So I can only imagine what a person with addiction is walking through in their mind. And I thank you for just sharing that. That just makes it so much real for me. It does. It does. Yeah.
And I think you said something that really resounded with me just now, which is that kind of as time has gone on, you've grown in compassion for your father.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I always felt so lost and abandoned, because my dad was a drinker, and I watched him deal with the way that he felt with alcohol, and I watched him suffer consequences from drinking, and I always had so much anger in my heart for, why is he doing this? Why is he choosing this drink over me and my sister? Why is he making these bad decisions? And then I found out why. Later on in life, I would be doing the same thing. I really understood what he was going through. And, luckily I found out through his friends that in the last years of his life, he was trying to get sober. He was doing his best effort, but it's not easy when you don't have a community and a supportive group of people that are kind of in line with that way of thinking. So that's really beautiful that you've been able to find that compassion for your dad, because I've had that same experience, and that's a really healing, beautiful thing.
Yeah. 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 This platform right here, the Season of Self-Love, it has been truly an amazing platform, because I've been able to meet people from all aspects of life in different worlds. And even though we feel like our story are disconnected or not the same, but we are so connected in so many different ways, that we are so aligned in so many different ways to be able to share our stories. The way that we transform or even elevate, or it come through, just through all the resilience. And again, I cannot thank you enough to just being courageous enough to share your story. A lot of people don't feel like they can share their story. Once you become successful in your thing, that's it. I don't want to go back. The funny thing is that I had shared a conversation that I was preparing for a show, and going through my transformation has been for me an amazing one, but it also has been challenging in the fact that once people see you a certain way, it's hard to get out of that box. You understand what I'm saying? And so for you, you were put in a box as a alcoholic, a drug addict, or whatever like that, that was not going to do anything in life. And so when you're trying to, and I'm talking to you listeners too, when you're trying to build something new, when you're going through all of these things, this is where we have to put your blinders on and like, okay, I have to trust in what I feel, and I have to go with it. I can't think outside of the box, nowhere, no how. You understand what I'm saying? In every moment in your life that has happened, all of these does nothing but prepare you for what it is for today. And let me go back and share the story, because I remember, I know you saw during the thing, I have a podcast called Ask Nyomi Bridging the Gap podcast. And that was the very first thing that I did after I left the adult industry. Okay. So once I left the adult industry, that was my thing, doing that. Then I created the Season of Self-Love. It's totally different from what Ask Nyomi is. We're talking about self-love. We're talking about transformation. We're talking about God. We're talking about spirituality. Nothing that an adult film star will be talking about, because they would think she don't know nothing about these things. For years, I was like, wow, I don't know if I'd be able to have the courage to do something like this. But just last month, I was doing a show. It was AVN weekend, doing a show. And I realized, like, my transformation for me means for me to elevate who I am. So I can do both. I can be in both worlds. I can be everything. I don't have to choose. I don't, because it wasn't a drug for me. It wasn't it wasn't bringing me down. If anything, I can go into that and help people that want to retire and do something else, give them a better way to go out into this world to be the best person that they can be. So what I love about what you did is that even when you said you guys celebrate them on their first day of sobriety. So they're imagining on that first day I come in, I'm celebrating now. Guess if I do 30 days? Guess if I do, and then that motivates them to go out and find somebody and bring them in and do the same thing. So it's just like a domino ripple effect that's happening. And again, all I do is want to just keep celebrating people on their wins and celebrating on people just sharing their joys. And I thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and what you said was so beautiful, because people will try to put you in a box.
Mm-hmm.
And as you mentioned a couple times, everything that you've done in your life is bringing you to a point, and that point involves a decision. So like, I didn't know I could run a business until I ran a business. I didn't know I could have employees, until I had employees. It wasn't something I knew I could do. And so it took time to really understand that I was capable of doing these things. And not only was I capable of doing them, but the people that work here at the Kava Bar, they love their job. They love working here. I have people volunteer to work on Christmas Day. I say, we're not going to be open on Christmas. And they go, but we want to come open the bar on Christmas because the whole family, everybody's going to come here for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, if you want to work on Christmas, you can. But, so in some of the harder things that you go through, they're teaching you lessons that are going to help you later in life. So that's a beautiful observation, that you can grow through things and learn from things like that.
Yes, beautiful. So let me ask you this: where can they, where are you at? Where is your bar at? Can I get it online? What can we do with it? Where can we get it at?
Yeah, so you can actually order our kava anywhere in the United States here on karunakava.com. That's KARUNAKAVA.com. And if you happen to be in Boise or in Idaho, or if you've got a layover in Boise and you're flying somewhere, come by the bar. We're over here at 5220 North Sawyer Avenue in Boise, Idaho. And I chose Boise because I was looking for a spot that didn't have any kava bars, but that did have mountains and beautiful landscapes and a lot of outdoor activities. And Idaho really spoke to me. So that's where we launched the venture. But we can ship kava to Alaska. We've actually had servicemen and women order kava while they're in Dubai. So we can get some kava to you no matter where you're at. And if you are in an area and you're thinking about trying kava, or you want to look into different ways to try it, see if there's a kava bar in your area. We actually have a map on our website, karunakava.com, that has all the kava bars in the United States on a map, so you can find them. But also we can make it for you and send it right to you so you can enjoy it in your home. And it's a great harm reduction technique for people that are actively drinking or trying to stop drinking. But also it's just a fun thing to try out, because kava is really good for reducing stress naturally. Kava is really good for improving sleep naturally. It has a lot of adjacent health benefits besides being a recreational beverage. So yeah, definitely check us out online.
Beautiful, beautiful. So before we wrap, what advice would you give listeners who are struggling to cultivate self-compassion and who might be navigating challenges like addiction and loneliness?
That's a great question. And it starts with little things. If you're struggling through something, understand that not everything lasts forever. Where you are right now is not where you will end up. Where you can be as a result of small, consistent actions can get you to a much better place. I mean, I was homeless, and not tooting my own horn or anything, but I've got 3 beautiful children now. I've got a beautiful wife that I love more than anything in the world. Our son is 13 days old today, and life is so much more beautiful than I ever could have imagined it, and suicide is another part of my story where there were times where I thought I was so hopeless that I did try to end my own life. And I just thank God. I thank the universe. I thank everyone who has helped me get to where I am now, that did not happen, because all that beauty, it was just right behind the curtain. I just had to keep fighting through it. So if you're out there and you're struggling, just keep fighting through it, because identify what is keeping you back and be free to let it go. You are able to let it go. You can let it go with kava or without kava. You are the ultimate embodiment of consciousness. You ultimately can decide your own fate. So have hope.
Yes, that was such a powerful advice there, Ben. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And you know what, my beautiful people, the conversation has been so enriching. Ben's story is a reminder that healing, transformation, and connection are possible when we approach ourselves with compassion and kindness. So again, don't forget to download this Year Rebirth workbook. It's packed with tools and help to reflect, practice self-compassion, all of that. And you can also connect with Ben and learn more about Karuna Kava through the links that's going to be in our show notes. All right. Again, my beautiful people, thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Season of Self-Love. And Ben, again, thank you for just sharing your amazing story and your wisdom with us.
Really beautiful chat. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, family, remember, self-love isn't selfish. It's essential. So take care of yourself, and we see you next time here on the Season of Self-Love. Until then, keep loving yourself. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovering and empowerment here at the Season of Self-Love podcast. Remember, embracing self-love is a continuous journey, and we're so glad to have you with us. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And don't forget to join our community on Facebook at Season of Self-Love. Connect with like-minded individuals who are also on their self-love journey. Now, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like for us to explore, we love to hear from you. Email us at seasonofselflove@gmail.com and let your voice be heard. So until next time, take a moment for yourself today and remember, you are worthy of love, joy, and all the beautiful things that life has to offer.